Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to another episode of This Old Lady.
Oh my gosh!
Where we talk to a senior member of real estate and try to understand what on earth she's talking about. My name is Chris.
And my name is Cheri.
That's what I was wanting. That's exactly what I was wanting.
Oh, and you wanted me to pull myself together after that?
Hey, that's exactly.
Oh my goodness.
Well, collect yourself. Just collect yourself. Breathe in and out. I mean, we can't exhaust you. I mean,
poor feeling in the audio.
I wanted to have fun with that.
Yeah, well, and as the audience can see, we're still working on the name.
Hey, it'll change next time around we do this. But okay,
Sounds good.
Right, so now that we got the jitters out, right,
Okay.
just, calm down.
I have to calm and
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Lordy.
Oh my Lord, yes, accomplishment. So with this, just building off of our last episode, we're going to start where we need to start. We're going to start at the very beginning.
Exactly.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So basically, we're going to be kind of looking at, the new person. The new person, the fresh face, he's freshly born out into the world. And they went, hey, I want to live in a new house. Maybe they're moving out of their parents' home or, starting a new life. This is a new life for somebody.
Yeah,
right?
It's that transition period.
Right, exactly. So with any sort of start, you need to know where to begin. So what does a person really need to actually get themselves started?
So some of the things that they need to really do is find a realtor. One that has experience that can help guide them through this process. Because this process, if you have experience, it could be, 1 to 3 months, find a house. Other people, it could take up to a year because there are steps involved in order to get you approved. And so finding that trusted realtor that you could just say, hey, I have this question. What do I need to do? Hey, I have this question. They can help direct you to a lender. They can help tell you what the things are that you need to do in order to get started.
Oh, okay. Right. So finding someone that they can trust to give a bunch of their information.
So the first thing really, when they find the realtor is going to ask them if they are aware where their credit score is or have a vague idea, because they're going to want to start prepping their credit score. When, if you have a 700 credit score, that will give you a lot more options than, say, if you have 300. 300, you're barely on the board, but you still can't qualify for a loan, so there's going to be credit repair. You really need to have, at a minimum, 580, and then anything above 700 gives you the best options and the best interest rates. So that's the first step.
Okay.
If you don't have credit, establish the credit. Whether that is taking out a secured credit card or whether that is, making your payments on time and making sure they're being reported to the credit bureau. I mean, now you can have like your rent and your utilities that can be reported to the credit bureaus to help you to establish your credit. So that is the first thing, is you have to have credit to get a loan.
Right, exactly. That's just the way of the world, really.
Exactly.
I mean, you have to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and then the other thing is there's a misconception that you have to have 20% down in order to qualify for a loan. And that really simply is not true. About 20% of the purchase price, that really is a fallacy, because there are down payment assistance programs. But if you take one of those government programs, you will pay higher interest rate, and you will have a higher payment because of that. So if you can save up, minimum programs will require 3% for the down payment, 3 or 3.5, depending whether it's FHA or conventional. VA, USDA have 0%. Okay. But there are fees, back end costs. So one way or another, you're going to have some money out of pocket. I roughly say save up 3% for the closing costs. So then, if you save up 6 to 9% of the purchase price, that will get you into the ballpark. So that's one thing. And then also your debt to income ratio, which that's a whole nother conversation, but you do need to keep your debt to income underneath 46% or 48%.
Right.
There are exceptions, but that's just kind of a general rule that I tell my clients so they can get the best pricing on interest rates.
Right. So just kind of building off of that. So, so that 3% that you're saying that you're generally telling your customers, right? That still has to be dependent upon what their price range is that they're shooting for that house. So they still need to figure out about the credit score, right?
Right. They have to figure out their credit score because the credit score will help determine what type of loan that they will qualify for and whether they need 3.5% or 3% interest rate or 5%. And it will also dictate on what your price point is to a certain extent, but that goes back into your income and what your debt is. Higher the debt, the lower the income, the lower the purchase power of buying houses. So they are all intertwined and dependent on one another.
Right. Okay. All right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's in generally.
Yeah.
know.
Okay.
You're throwing out a lot of numbers.
Yes,
so it's
I know.
like I'm trying to keep up with you here.
Yeah.
So it's just like, okay, 3%, all depending on credit score, typically 700, but what if you're on the lower end?
So you can get pre-approved with a 580 credit score. I have many clients, first-time home buyer, they have not really established a whole lot of credit, or they, have had a few bumps as they were establishing it. And they didn't understand that it was necessary to pay all of your payments on time and really need to have a good year track history for the best bump in your credit score. But, FHA has 580 as a minimum. You might even be able to get a little lower with some programs, but generally speaking, that's the best place to start.
Right.
Is have that as a minimum threshold or something to go for.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly. So in order for us to, so we really should kind of talk about resuscitating that credit score, right? So what's going to be those steps that you're going to encourage your customers to do?
So there are some preparation that I would highly recommend. I mentioned to not having late payments on their credit for a year or more, make consistent, even make early or more payments on it. That way it gives you a higher bump in your credit score. That's just one thing to be cognizant about. The other thing is if you do have any difficulties that arise, maybe you had that surprise medical bill or something. It's best to talk, or if you maybe were going to be late on one of your credit cards, it's best to talk to the creditors ahead of time than after the event happened, because then they can help guide you in some solutions that you might be eligible for that you weren't aware of. So communication is key with them. So that's one thing.
Right, because if afterwards they're breaking your legs.
No, but they will report it to the credit bureau, which will knock your score down.
So they might as well be knocking out your kneecaps.
Yeah. Well, it feels like a game of Chutes and Ladders. Did you ever play that as a kid?
Yeah. Tons of times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my favorite part was I loved climbing the ladders, except for things keep coming up and you keep having to go down that slide. Just like,
right.
A little frustrating.
Right. So that is essentially just like credit scores, isn't it?
It is.
So
it is.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that the consumer does need to work on. The next thing, like I mentioned prior, the second point is get your savings account. Have a nice, hefty, or healthy, I should say, not hefty, healthy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, wrong word.
I was going to say, I was like, what are we talking about here?
You want a healthy savings account. And if you start now, it will lead up to good habits for after you've purchased your house, because you always want to try to have a savings account, because you never know when, the roof, it needs some work, or the sewer line gets, stopped up or whatever. There are responsibilities that come with house ownership. And so having a savings account really can give you a nice cushion to feel comfortable with what you are doing, and just realize that's just part of ownership.
You mean I can't just go on spending sprees all the time? That seems lame.
Yeah, I know. It's just terrible.
But if you're shooting for a goal, I guess you gotta do something about it, right?
Yeah, and so that's the thing. If you really do want to purchase a home, don't spend your money on stupid stuff. You know?
I think I remember talking to you previously, and you say stop spending on stupid crap. I specifically wrote that down in my notes.
Yeah, that sounds about right. But, we live in an instant gratification world. And so a lot of times we see something, we want to buy it. Oh, everybody's going out for Starbucks. Let's go and spend our money there. Let's go out to eat. But, if we save some of that, and like our family did, if we save some of that money, we will have more.
It's this.
It's this
coming back.
Save.
This is going. This is spending.
Yeah.
You need to get the hand gesture right.
I'm working on it. What can I say? It's the age. What can I say? Anyway, you want to have it coming back towards you so that you can have the bigger life that you want, the shelter that you desire. And sometimes you have to have, keep your goals low at first, in the sense of, instead of buying a $500,000 home, maybe I have to start off in a condo that's $250,000, because the price point is affordable. And that way you can save up and use it as a stepping stone for your next property. So that's another thing that a realtor can do, is to help you set your financial goals in respects to real estate. Many of my clients, we buy their first home. Well, 3-5 years from now, we help them to get into their other homes, and they either sell that one or they keep it as an investment property, depending on what their risk threshold is.
Right. Right.
know?
Yeah.
And
So
that's an
you're
individual-
taking a property and you're investing back into it, essentially.
Yeah.
And then going on to the next part. But
Yeah. And what's interesting is that if you do have that goal of purchasing your first home, I believe the statistic is that ones that own their own home versus those who rent have 43% more wealth, or 43x more wealth than those that are renters. So it really does add up in the end if you're a long-term thinker. It benefits all the way around.
Gotcha. And what's that third point that you told me about? So we did save money.
Yeah.
And then don't be late on payments.
Right. And the next one is really to be cognizant of your credit score. I know many people out there are using Credit Karma, which gives you a gauge, but it doesn't use the same metrics that lenders use. They can be, sometimes I've had it the other way around, where people thought they were only at 620 and they were at 700. So it can go either way, but they really just use that as a gauge so that they can see what they might need to improve on. Maybe it's that their debt to income ratio is too low, or too big, I should say, because when you're buying a home, lenders want to see you under 10% debt utilization. So that being said, if you have a $6,500 limit and you have $4,000 on your credit card, that's a really high ratio for that credit card. They want to see that one paid down in order to stay within the limits. That way you can get the best rates too.
Right.
So that's some of the pre-prep work that you can do before talking to the lender even.
Right.
And then the realtor can give you names of realtors that they trust, or realtors, lenders that they trust that will be best for your unique situation. Each individual have different needs and different goals and different personalities. And so they'll generally give you 2 or 3 different ones to choose from, and you can have a conversation with them.
Right.
So,
Okay. Awesome.
there you go.
So why don't we just do a brief little pause right here? This
Okay.
kind of seems like a nice little midway point for us.
Yeah.
And then, collect our thoughts, and then we'll come back with the following step after that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Sounds good.